everybody. Welcome to T.L.'s Roadhouse. My old friend, my buddy, Ira Dean.
Yeah, let's keep the road stories clean.
Yeah, we have to, man.
Yeah.
How long have we known each other? At least 25 years.
Yeah, Trick Pony came out in 99. I remember I still owe you a thank you because you saved me. We did this thing, and I went out partying with the locals, and I came into the hotel, and I was going to go in the hotel bar, and you stopped me because GAC and CMT were filming in there. You said, I don't think this is a good idea. And you walked me to my room, and I was like, thank you. You saved me from getting in trouble.
Yeah, but I think we were all trying to protect each other as much as we could, man. It was
Man,
quite the journey.
Back when the town was cool.
Yeah, it's so different now, and I'm trying to understand the landscape, but it's changed so much from the '90s before social media and all those things, and the places that we used to hang out, and the off the beaten path bars where the road musicians and the songwriters hung out. Right. Those places don't exist anymore.
No.
Where were your hangouts?
Mine was Longhorn on Lyle.
Oh yeah. What about? Did you ever go to the Broken Spoke?
Oh, all the time.
Or Gabe's?
Yes.
Or the Rose Room on Stewart Square?
I feel like one of the old players at Gabe's now, just jaded and.
You knew Ron Sweet then as a bass player. One of my favorite people in the whole town, man. I used to go to Gabe's because Ron would play 6 nights a week, like 4 hours a night, and sing all that old Ray Price shit and walk that freaking
Big Murph on steel.
Oh my God! That was why I went to Gabe's, was because of Ron and that band.
They didn't play anything past 1973.
It was just good old solid classic country and just sweet and pure every single night. And I saw Phil Ball and a lot of those old session players and the older cats that would come in and sit in with them. I saw Tanya Tucker dance on the table, and that's
I got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, I played with Tanya, but before I got the gig with Tanya, I played Barbara's down in Printer's Alley.
I remember Barbara's well. I think I paid Barbara's rent a couple of times.
I think I did too. Tanya came in there and left a few stories in there. Bless her heart. One of my favorite. Don't you say nothing. One of my favorite gigs to this day, though. What a train wreck of that band. We were just a mess, but we had a good time.
Oh my gosh! But it's such great old stories, man. Just the whole journey that we took and where you're at now, man. I've been seeing you gave me an invite to a listening party for your new record. I'm going to be out of town. I apologize, but I'm proud to see you got new stuff going on. Tell me about the new project.
Well, man, somebody was stupid enough to let me make another album, so I said sure. No, I had a lot of things still to say. And I wanted to make, if I was going to have the opportunity to make an album, I always, I wanted to record with the cats that paved, influenced my musical journey.
And who all were those cats? Who?
I had Ronnie Dunn on there, Vince Gill, Ted Nugent, Steve Ferroni from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, David Lee Murphy, who me and him have written a ton of songs together, Gary Allen. Who else is on there? Uncle Cracker, he was my old drinking buddy in Vegas. So we did a drinking song together. Even though I'm dry as a bone these days, I can still sing about it. Lord knows I got the stories too. You're looking at me like you know.
We had a good time.
Yeah, you hung with the old me.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
How long have you been sober?
Since about 2012-ish.
Yeah.
Somewhere around there.
Yeah.
Just been behaving. I haven't woken up in the county orange since, know.
Yeah, it's
haven't had to hire an attorney at 3 a.m.
Yeah, you know what? I think it's good if you can get to the place where you get out of your own way.
Yeah, man.
And we've all been guilty of it, and I'm lucky. I've had to make some adjustments along the way too, man. I don't even drink during the day before show. I still drink. I like my wine, and I'll drink to have a nightcap at the end of a show.
Man, I got nothing against alcohol. Man. I loved it. I was a great drinker. I was just a horrible stopper, you know. And it started drinking me, so I had to make a decision in life and just say, okay, some people can do it. I can't. Not without having to make 1,000 phone calls the next morning and apologizing.
Yeah. Did you have to go get some help along the way, or were you able to just
I went to rehab in 2005.
Yeah.
I want my money back. It didn't work. But I finally did it on my own,
I found, and my wife and I debated about this a lot when I was going through a heavy drinking period and doing a lot of bad shit. And I told her, I said, you got to realize that it's not the problem. I don't have a problem with alcohol. There's other things that are contributing to this whole thing. And I went and did a couple of weeks at a place and really dug down. I put the timeline up and went back to my childhood and really was able to release a whole lot. about, and it changed my freaking life, dude.
Yeah.
It allowed me to step back and get a perspective where it's like I can have a glass of wine and walk away, or have a drink, a martini at dinner and walk away and not feel like I got to sit there and drain the freaking bar. I used to not be able to walk away from it.
Man, that's I had to clean the attic out myself, man. I didn't realize how much stuff was up there that was messing with me. So it's a good thing. My brother, he was just like me, but he socially drinks now. He can drink like a gentleman. I'm afraid to even try. I'm afraid I'll end up in County Orange again. So
and being a creative person, I look back at all those old Dean Dillon songs when he was drinking and roaring pretty hard and going through the heartbreak and destroying his relationships and all that stuff. And he wrote about all that stuff. Learning to come out of that and not have to be living that life, but being able to draw from that life gives you such a creative edge when you have clarity of thought and you can take those pieces and put them into your music and your craft.
Right.
How have you been able to apply that stuff on this new
project?
It
took me a while. When I first, growing up, all my heroes fought demons, man, from Johnny Cash to Waylon to Hendrix, even my dad. Shoot, Jesus fought demons. So I went with it. And when I first tried out, I tried. Thank God to cats like Jeffrey Steele, Chris Wallen, Aaron Barker, David Lee Murphy that let me still in the writing rooms, because there for like a year, I felt like I was the one just going to get coffee. I was not contributing at all, and they were just putting my names in the corner trying to keep me going. And finally, it clicked. It was hard to write sober because that was my cocktail.
Getting on stage too.
Oh yeah, isn't that a weird vibe?
It's a big mind change.
Yeah, it's you don't have any of that liquid courage. So, but doing this record, not only did I call everybody and try to get everybody on it. If they let me do another one, you're on that with me. Damn it,
I'd be honored.
And but I wrote for everybody else. So when they said, okay, we want to cut, and I was like, when do you think of cutting? They're like 3 weeks, and I was like, whoa. I got to write for me, So, and I wanted the album from start. Man, when we grew up, you got the album, and it was an experience, And it was like you didn't take the needle off the vinyl; you went from start to finish, and it was
while you were reading everything on the album cover and soaking in the packaging and looking who played on the record and who produced it and going down the lyrics.
Yeah,
and all of it.
And you felt like when the album was done, you knew exactly who they were because you didn't have social media back then. And so I wanted every song to be a chapter of my life. The drinking years, the getting sober years, the fighting the demons, the, losing my parents, finding love. I finally got married after all these years. Everybody thought I'd never be married. And, man, I was married to music, man. I just loved making music. And then I finally found the woman that could deal with that, And so I put every chapter is of my life is in every song. So there's drinking songs and there's missing you songs and finding you songs and all that stuff, all the good, bad, ugly, dented soup can songs.
Man, you think about the true poets, the Christophersons, Sunday Morning Coming Down, and knowing the whole story behind all that. I mean, it's almost a blessing and a curse to have that kind of music in your soul. And when you go through dry spells, it's agonizing when you can't get anything to come out and you just can't visualize it when you're in that dark place. But being able to, when you get all that stuff lined back up, man, there's something really gratifying about it. It's almost better than a $200 an hour therapist when you sit down and you have one of those good collabs, good writing sessions where you're just purging some things and there's an old memory and you're getting some of that stuff out. Something really healthy about that to me.
I think I'll take it over a couch any day. And how does that make you feel? I don't want that. I don't want that, man. There's something great about going through the ashes and the fire and coming out to the light and looking back at that in your rearview mirror and writing about it. There's something, you got to go through those ups and downs, man. Nobody said this life was going to be easy, and you have to go through those speed bumps and broken roads, but we're blessed enough to write about that kind of stuff,
Yeah, and I think we live in a culture now where it's, I've been amazed that the industry has been as forgiving for Morgan. He's done some stuff and he's paying the price for it, but he seems to be growing out of it. I made some mistakes along the way. I've had to grow through and get out of my own way, but it's so much more in your face. The days of a George Jones getting known as not showing up, man, you can't do that no more.
No, and I'm so thankful there was a Morgan Wallen because they finally forgot the stories about me and you. You know, I've been praying for years, going, when is somebody going to come and take us off the 1 and 2 position on the chalkboard and beat us? And finally, thank you, Morgan, for coming in.
I don't think I slept much for about 15 years.
Yeah.
I was rolling hard, son.
I'm like, thank God there was no social media back in the day.
Thank God. Yeah.
I know.
Yeah, I'm thankful about that a lot. Yeah, because the '90s we were it was pretty fun.
Man, times have changed. I was like looking on social media, and Steven Tyler was like backstage cooking hamburgers on social media. I'm like, what are you doing, man? You're supposed to be a rock star. I don't want to see you flipping burgers for your band. And he's wearing shorts, and I'm like,
You don't want to see those legs,
No.
first of all.
The memory I've got of Steven Tyler, what I think he should be doing is not flipping burgers, you know. So social media is kind of it's a double-edged sword. I miss visualizing and using my imagination what these cats were like, you know.
You know, and you think about it too. Back in those days, you remember I grew up in a little small town in Southwest Arkansas, you know, and so you'd hear the stories floating around about Rod Stewart and about this one and shit that happened on the road.
Yeah,
I read Hammer of the Gods by Led Zeppelin, the stuff in the elevators and just crazy stuff that went on. But there's something that happens when a story gets to kind of cultivate and simmer and go through several word of mouths, and it develops into this kind of urban legend thing.
Yeah.
Nothing gets a chance to be an urban legend anymore because it's posted as soon as it freaking happens.
And then you get the real truth. It doesn't get to grow. I mean, we got some Tanya Tucker stories that I know couldn't have happened, but they're huge. They're awesome. Yeah. It's like, I hope it did happen that way, because that's epic. You know?
Yeah, because it does. It has a chance to evolve and get a little bit more character to it and some embellishment along the way.
I've heard some of mine come back to me. I'm like, I know that ain't the way it happened, but I'm like, yep, that's a good one. I like that one.
Man,
that one sounds way better than it is.
I've lived here in the same spot since the early 90s, and I've heard rumors around town that I had giraffes and elephants and shit back here. I've heard all kinds of stuff.
Well, I did pass 42 alpacas on the way in.
They escaped last week.
Oh, I knew it.
Yeah, there was grooming time. It's time to shear them up, and they got pissed off.
Yeah, they went on strike.
That happens.
I know you got big deer out here, because for y'all that don't know, Tracy throws the best Halloween parties ever.
We have a large time.
And every time I leave here, there's big bucks in the driveway.
There's usually about 15 of them. And in the springtime, now it's turkey season, there's times I'll come in, there'll be 15 deer on this side, and there'll be 15 or 20 turkeys on this side. And, it's just...
They are so thankful I don't live here.
Well, I'm not allowed to shoot anything right here.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
you got that rule with your wife?
Yes.
Yes. I know that rule.
Yeah, with those rules.
Yeah,
and you really, there's nothing. I don't really have any massive deer here. And when I first bought the property years ago, I put the food plots out. I was hitting them with the protein. I was doing all the things. There's the genetic deformity. I've seen them come out with 3 on one side and a horn growing out from behind their ear like a Garth Brooks microphone. I mean, like one. And just crazy.
Yeah.
Unbalanced, ununiform, no mass whatsoever. I mean, I gave up on it a long time ago. I go to West Texas.
Yeah. Well, West Texas got some good ones.
Awesome monsters down there.
Well, and we're so close to Kentucky. You can go to Kentucky and
if you go west, I know there's some big deer around Pegram around that area.
Yeah.
Friends of mine have hunting leases and stuff.
Yeah, I shot a monster outside of Owensboro, Kentucky. It was
that farmland.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
This thing looked like a mule deer. It was fat.
Yeah. What's your favorite way to cook deer meat?
Man, in my new way, this sounds uppity as heck, but those sous vides.
I knew you was going to say that.
A backstrap in a sous vide and then just brown it. Oh my God. You can cut it with a fork. But I don't want nobody to come over and see me
sous videing
it up. That's like riding a moped.
I don't think Hank done it that way.
No, sitting over there with a sous vide. I feel so cheesy. Waiting for my water to get hot.
It happens when you get old.
I know. I know. We're totally old. What's your favorite way to cook backstraps?
Man, I'm still. I was just talking about this earlier. I like to tenderize it with a mallet.
Yeah.
And then soak it in pet milk for a few hours, give it a little bit of sweetness, and then I just take flour and put it like salt and pepper and maybe some Cajun spice and just kick it up a little bit and then pan fry it.
Oh, that's
my favorite way, man. Mashed potatoes, some green beans.
Heck yeah.
Like that. Just
that
make some
good.
milk gravy and a cast iron skillet, son. Oh, hell.
Your wife must be happy.
Shit. Yeah. I like to cook. Problem is I like to eat too.
Yeah.
That's the problem. That's my
I like Achilles. I dial the phone and order in. I'm a great dialer. I can't cook. I can sous vide.
Yeah. Yeah. I cook a lot.
Everybody's tuning in right now going, they're talking about sous vide? Yeah.
Yeah. Sous vide is a little thing. I've got one. We haven't used it yet, but the whole premise is you put it in a bag and you boil it.
Yeah.
The sous vide kind of boils it, and it's something that high-end restaurants are using a lot because it's faster. It cooks cleaner. You don't have to fry it. You don't have to air fry it in
No.
water. But then you just kind of brown it on the outside, and it's supposed to. It makes it really
tender. Oh,
Yes,
my
it
God.
just
It
like
makes
breaks that marbling down. And
Yeah,
it really
it
good.
does. My old manager brought one over and showed me, and I was making fun of him until I bit into that backstrap. I was like, I got on Amazon right away. Sous vide. I didn't know how to spell sous vide.
SUVA.
I don't know.
I don't know. How do you spell sous vide?
I know. I don't know, but I did it. I got one.
So when you went in record, where did y'all cut the bulk of it at? Did everybody just cut their own tracks? Or what,
No,
what
we
did they do?
we went out to Noah Gordon called me and says, "Where do you want to cut?" And I always wanted to cut at Fame down in Muscle Shoals. Never have. So we cut 6 sides down in Fame, and then we were going to go back down to Fame. And then Steve Ferroni from Tom Petty and the Heartbreakers, we became friends. And I was like, "Man, you got to come play on this session." So he's like, "I'm flying in and fly me into Nashville." So I was like, "Okay, hold on." So we need to book a studio for Nashville. I had 6 more songs ready to go, and we tracked there. So Ferroni played on half the album.
Yeah.
That's a talented cat. That is you don't think of musical people being drummers, but he is a musical drummer.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's crazy good. It's a whole different animal.
Is it just the internal rhythms that he uses, or
Yeah,
it's just phrasing?
it's just honesty. There's no look at me moments like some drummers will put some big fill in for no reason, and this guy just plays the song, and it's so honest, and he draws so much tone out of his drums. I remember going in the control room, and the engineer's sitting there, and I go, "Man, those drums sound good," and he goes, "They're flat." He goes, "This guy is incredible. His drums sound like it's like you can run them flat." He just pulls the tone out, and he's always smiling. He's always having fun, and just plays.
Wonder what size sticks he uses.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
and, man, that's so much of that is placement, man. Guys that are real consistent with their placement,
Yeah.
and get right in the sweet spot of that tom.
I know.
That's what gives you that sound, man.
On that Tom Petty documentary, what is it, Damn the Torpedoes or whatever it is? I think the reason he got that gig is because Tom had a bunch of drummers in for You Don't Know How It Feels, and Steve sat down and just played it like no frills, just kept it simple, and Tom was like, "Man, that's exactly what I'm looking for." And it's because it's like there's nothing magical about it. I mean, not magical, nothing like technical and hard
No
to
Neil
do.
Peart shit.
Yeah, it's
No,
stuff
he
like
just
that.
lays it
It's
in the
so
pocket.
good.
And on You Don't Know How It Feels, I was like, "How'd you get those drum sounds?" And he said, Rick Rubin liked just overheads. And he said, but he hated the way my cymbals sound through the overhead. So if you listen to You Don't Know How It Feels, it doesn't have one crash cymbal in it.
Really
Yeah, he does a fill and he goes right back into his hi-hat.
interesting.
And
Yeah.
everybody else that was drumming on it was throwing a bunch of cymbal splashes and all this.
Yeah.
Too many
Kenny
fills and
Ernoff
everything.
auditioned for Tom
Yeah.
Petty. He was the drummer before Steve Ferroni.
Wow.
Yeah.
Sometimes simple is so much better.
Yes.
It
dang
really
right.
is. There's a balance though. I've had several drummers over the years, and some guys tend to overplay stuff. Some guys really don't understand country structure. Structure is really important to me. Guys that know how to make a transition from a verse to a chorus, and how to
Right.
transition into bridges. There's rock and roll guys that may be great players and have great chops that don't understand transition.
No, they
work.
don't.
They don't get it.
They don't get it. And Ferroni gets it. Greg Morrow came into town. He gets it. Man, Morrow played on half the album. I love
You
Morrow.
ever get a chance to work with Near?
Uh-uh.
Near Z?
I've heard a lot of great things
I've done
about
a
him.
couple of records with Near. The only problem with Near is so good that he'll make you feel like he's playing with a loop, and it's just
him?
His little internal things that he does. It makes such a wide groove that it's real hard for most road drummers to do.
Really?
Yeah, I've had problems with it over the years. Yeah.
Well, that's where you tell your road drummer, you better
Step it up.
You better step it up, buddy.
Step it up.
There's a lot of cats out of work right now that can do that.
How much stuff did you do musically on the record?
Not much. Let me think. I think I played some bass parts on it.
Yeah.
I might have played some acoustic parts. I don't know
You
about
just
acoustic.
prefer to step back and produce.
Well, I wasn't really producing. This is the first. Like I've done records on my own before, but they've basically been demos that labels have upgraded.
Yeah.
And I was lucky enough. I produced Aaron Lewis's last 2 albums.
What all instruments do you play?
I play anything with strings. I came to town as a drummer. I went to Southern Illinois as a drummer, as a jazz performance major, But anything with strings or hammers, I can play. If it's a wind instrument, I can't play it.
Yeah.
I've just never been anything with a bow or you got to blow in it. Ain't for me. I'm not doing it. Not doing it.
You got a bow or blow.
Yep. If it's got a bow or I got a blow, I ain't doing it. Just say no to that.
Okay.
But I pretty much play anything else.
Little piano.
Yeah, little piano.
Yeah.
I write on piano and
Cool.
guitar and so yeah, I actually I went and did a tour one time back when I was young. I wouldn't say no to nothing, and I went and played B3 for a group. And yeah, I was not a B3 player, but I was one on that tour for a little bit. I was like, yeah, I got it, no problem. Just don't make me solo. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, man.
Wow. So, how much are you working now? I mean, we've done a few shows together over the last 4 or 5 years. But I mean, are you out there? Are you doing?
Well, I've been doing. I've been touring on my own for a while.
Yep.
But this year I switched agents because the new album, new everything, and so I've been writing a bunch with Ronnie Dunn. So Ronnie called me and he's like, "Hey, how busy is your summer?" And I was like, "Actually, it's not that busy at all. I just switch agencies." I said, "In the fall and winter, I start picking up." And he's like, "Well, I'll never forget the quote. I might be making your day or breaking your day." And I was like, "What?" And he's like, you plan on coming out and writing with me and kicks?" I was like, "Heck yeah, I plan on coming out." And he's like, "Well, I need a bass player that sings, and you want the gig? I'll just put you to work while you're out." And I was like, "How many shows is it?" It's only 33 shows.
Shit, yeah.
And it's all arenas and stadiums, which is crazy. And so I said, "Send me the dates." There was only one I couldn't do out of the 33 because I was booked. And I said, "If you could sub that one show out, I can do the whole tour." So I've been out with those guys.
That's awesome, man.
And yeah, we went. I said, "Yeah." And then the next week we were in rehearsals, and then we hit the road.
I've been a little worried about Ronnie. I saw some video clip last weekend or so where he had to leave the stage early. It
Yeah.
looked like he went down on his back or he was holding himself, but I think he had COVID or something, didn't he?
Man, he got strep throat and COVID, and he was over it. But I mean, he was so dehydrated. If you see the video, I'm playing. The thing with Ronnie is he sings so dang good, you don't know when he's
Yeah.
sick or when he's not. And he came back and goes, "I can't breathe." And I was like, "Well, you sound great." And he went back up and he's singing. I was like, "He sounds great."
That's why he was sitting down on the steps.
Then he came to my riser and
yeah.
sat down.
Yeah.
And I looked down at him. I said, "You all right?" And when he looked up, he was pale. And I was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah." And so he got through half a boot scooting buggy, and and went and got an IV and got hydrated. And we did a show the next night, and he was back on 10.
He's a pro,
He
man.
is such a pro.
Yeah, without a doubt.
I mean, what a singing fool.
He's probably in my top 3 favorite country vocalists of all time. I'd put him up there with Keith Whitley and Merle Haggard.
Man.
He's got to be in my top 5 at least. He's up there.
Mine too. Mine. It's as far as when I came to town, he's the number one since I came to town.
Yeah, of
I
this
came to
era.
town after Whitley passed. So
Yeah, he's hard to beat, man.
Ronnie, when he sings into one, when he sings "I Believe," you believe every word he says, man. Good gracious.
Do you hang out on Lower Broad much? You kind of broke away from all that stuff.
I broke away from all that, man.
I don't go down there either.
I busted my teeth down there. I played every honky tonk back when it was
Not profitable.
not yeah. And there was only like 3 clubs back then: the Wagon Wheel, Tootsie's,
Tootsie's,
Stage,
Legends, yeah.
Legends, and there was one across the street that was just horrible. I remember on Wednesdays a girl named Selena Pink played there. It was like the kind of place that they give you a gun when you walk in. It was brutal. It was a bad place to play, but I did all my time down there. I go down there every once in a while, and it just doesn't seem to have this. Maybe I'm getting old, but it just doesn't seem to have the same magic to me.
As a person in the industry that's been here for a long time, Music Row, and none of it has the same magic to me that it
No.
used to. It used to be like we were this little town inside of this big city, and we had our own thing and our own culture and our own verbiage, and it's really changed. And now it's gotten very commercialized. I'll drive down through there once in a blue moon just to kind of see what's going on. And then I get down, it's like, why did I come down here? I can't get out.
Yeah.
You know, the
It's like
traffic is just so bad. And I don't like those crowds like that.
No,
that
it
much
used to be a
anymore.
music town with a drinking problem. Now it's a drinking town with a music problem.
Yeah, like a lot of guys are raking it in though.
Oh.
I guess you can do 4 or 5 sets a night. Scott goes down there and works.
Yeah, I play down there. It's a lot better than it used to be. The money's better. There's more tourists. There's better parking situation.
What's the biggest night you've ever had down there?
Well, me personally, about $500.
Yeah,
for-
I hear
for
guys
4
make
hours.
come in like
But
$1,500.
there's guys that are making $900 a shift, and
There's a guy down
You know.
that owns 300 acres by my little farm in Ashland City. He's got 300 acres and RV park up in there. And I was like, man, this is nice. Where'd you get all this? He goes, playing Lower Broadway for tips.
yeah.
Wow, you couldn't have done that 20 years ago,
No,
dude.
no,
I mean, you didn't get that in Printer's Alley.
no. You didn't get that at Barbara's.
No.
No, you might have drank that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
No.
no, the town's, when I came to town, shoot, we hung out. I mean, everybody hung out together. It was like a
know.
real small community.
But
and we
we
all
also-
wanted to help each other. And now it just seems weird. It just seems like everybody's in
I
competition.
think some of that's coming back, but the difference to me, and I pondered on this a lot, it's like those old places that we talked about. There were places where the musicians and the songwriting and music people would go that the tourists didn't know. You can't have that now because as soon as you do, somebody's going to text about it. Next
Yeah.
thing you know, everybody's going to be there.
Yeah.
So we've lost those places that were just ours.
Yeah.
And I miss that part of it because I don't want to go down there and do the touristy thing. If I was working down there, I respect what it is. And there's a lot of talent down there, but it's got to be, one, it's harder to separate yourself from the pack.
Yeah.
It's harder to get recognized by record labels. The competition is so extremely tough. And it's a lot of good talent down there,
Yeah.
too. A lot of really talented
Yeah.
people.
Yeah, for sure.
But, in today's market, how far does talent get you when they just want to see how many followers you got?
I don't know.
I don't know either. Somewhere out there's a dude in the woods in a canoe who sings like Merle Haggard, who writes songs like Dean Dillon, that has no followers, that in the old days he would get a deal. Nowadays, I don't think he gets signed.
No, because you're expected to do so much more.
Yeah.
And, I mean, we did a lot. I mean, I was always never afraid to put the work in. Neither were you. We all did. But
Did you ever flip burgers before a show and video it for social media?
In
No,
shorts?
no, but I've flipped burgers in my backyard at pool parties with nothing
Yeah.
on but an apron.
That didn't make social. Thank God there was no social media. If you were singing Sticks and Stones, that would have totally taken it a different route.
Yeah, we had some good times.
Heck yeah. Oh, God, yeah.
Oh man, I miss the country radio seminar at the Opryland Hotel. That's when it was fun. back in the
God,
day.
yeah.
I don't remember when it moved over to the Renaissance, but it had to be in the early 2000s when they made that change. Because when y'all were just starting out, I think
Yeah.
I mean, it was still at the Opryland Hotel when
Yeah.
y'all kicked off, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, our first one was at Upperland Hotel. And then it went right to the Renaissance. The Renaissance was okay, but it still didn't have the
It wasn't the
magic.
same.
It's almost like the ACMs back when the ACMs were in LA. It was cool. And they moved to Vegas. It was kind of cool, but it took a while to get used to it. Now it's like in Texas. And
Yeah, it's
I
not
went
fun.
last year in Dallas, and it just doesn't seem, I don't know. Maybe I sound like the old, you know what? I sound like I should be playing Gabe's right now.
Yep. That's all right, though. But the thing that made the Opryland Hotel cool is like when you checked in, you didn't leave.
No.
Because there was one floor where all the labels would have suites. Everybody had the rooms, and you'd go and stay for multiple days. Everybody did their showcases. You were all going around and watching different music and doing different label events and doing your radio remotes.
Yeah.
So everybody was contained. When you're at the Renaissance, once it left the Opryland Hotel, people were going out and doing other things.
Yeah.
It lost its vibe of being contained in that element. I mean, it was just different
Yeah.
Is that
back
a
then.
multi-day kind of event?
Oh yeah, country
Yeah.
radio seminar usually lasts about 4 or 5 days.
Yeah.
And you never leave. You're
Yeah.
just there.
No, and I don't know if you drink a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
CRS.
Yeah.
Can't remember. Shit.
Yeah. It was very festive, but we were young too, and that's
Yeah.
acceptable when you're young.
Yeah.
It's okay.
I heard a story about Blake Shelton back in the day. He caught a albino catfish, and they'll grow as big as your tank, and it got too big for his house. So he put it in one of them giant igloo coolers with water in it, and he walked to Opryland Hotel, where the dancing waters are, and he let that catfish go in that pond with all those koi fish. And it was in there forever. Like that
No
thing
shit.
lived forever in that. It was the albino catfish that lived in there forever, and then I think it died one day. But yeah,
That's pretty cool.
I mean, back, yeah.
What are your memories of Music Row before it became condos and apartments?
Man, I remember going to Virginia's Market,
Murder Mark.
standing there, and oh God, what was his name? I can't remember his dang name. One of my favorite songwriters. I bumped into him there about every other day, and I was just like, it was just a magic moment to go there. For y'all that ain't been there, there were mostly houses. They were mostly
Old
houses.
houses.
Old houses were publishing companies with fireplaces in them. But you go in there, and I mean, the rights were epic. And there'd be like 3 rooms in a writing room, and you don't know who the heck was in the other one. You just hear them through the walls.
Oh, yeah.
And and you weren't just trying to write a great song. It was almost you were competing with the song that you heard through the wall. You're like, oh, they ain't writing this today. They ain't writing this shit.
I was scared to go right at the fire hall, and I know if you've written
Yes.
with David, I mean the fire hall, you got to be careful what you got to be kind of quiet because people steal your ideas over there.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, they'll steal a good idea in a heartbeat. You'll wind up there'll be 3 songs with the same title showing up the next week.
The quietest lunch you'll ever have is at a table full of songwriters. Nobody says nothing. They just sit there and eat. How's your day? Good. You know.
That's what I miss about the Longhorn, man. Back in the day, man, you go to Longhorn, you go for an early lunch, and then you by 3 o'clock you're tore up. Yeah,
Man, Eddie and T. Roy used to call me and come down to the Longhorn, and they would lock the door and just let us party all night. But I remember one night there was a booth in the corner, and we were getting a little overserved, and I dropped my keys in the booth, and those things were screwed down to the floor, and we couldn't get my keys out, and I was going to have to rent a room all night. And so me, Eddie, and T-Roy picked up that booth and ripped it out of the floor and got my keys. Until they closed that place, you could move that booth. We ripped it out of the floor.
I remember I sat in that booth a
Yep.
lot in that freaking
The reason
corner.
that thing moved around was me, T-Roy, and Eddie trying to get my car keys out.
Man alive. I tell you, one of the hardest things in the 30-something years that I've been in this business was when T. Roy got killed. I really had a hard time with that, man.
Yeah.
It really messed me up. And, you know, T. Roy and I mean, we weren't running buddies together all the time, but it was one of those cats that we were kindred spirits. I would have probably been right beside him. I wouldn't have thought nothing about it, getting in a freaking race car and going 200 miles an hour day a show, or getting in a helicopter.
We've all done it. We've all done that crazy stuff at those outdoor festivals. There'll be somebody with a biplane there saying, get up in it, or a helicopter, or a race car, like you said, or and you're like, okay, let's go. But man, I got that phone call, and it just so happened that I had to do a session about 2 months before, and I borrowed a Les Paul. I'm a telly guy, but I borrowed a Les Paul from T. Roy for this thing because it was a big rock and roll session, and he loaned me this sky blue Les Paul, and I was in my house picking on that Les Paul, thinking I got to return this to Troy, and I got the phone call, and it took that one hit hard, man.
That one hit hard.
Because I mean, number one, we all came up the ranks at about the same time.
It was just so untimely. It you know. It wasn't something that you could even prepare yourself for.
No.
He just seemed like he was bigger than life. At least
and he just turned the corner, and he was
in a healthy place. He kind of cleaned up his life, and he was spirit found faith and found God, and he was just on such a good path. I mean,
maybe God let him stay down here till he got on that path, and then
that's what I hope for all of us.
That's what I hope.
Hope anything for humanity as a whole.
Yeah,
that you get to live long enough to find that peace, man.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, because sometimes it's a journey for a lot of us. It's not an easy thing to find.
No, you know, and I fought it kicking and screaming. I mean, I didn't go easy.
Did you come from a family that had substance issues growing up?
Yeah. I think it comes with the last name Dean.
Lawrence.
My dad went out for bread and milk one time and called my mom the next day, and she said, "Where you at?" And he said, "The phone book says Puerto Rico." Oh. And so she says, "You got 24 hours to get home, and you better bring milk and bread." And so he had gotten drunk and flown to Puerto Rico and was partying. So he came home with milk and bread, and that was a Thursday in our house.
Wow.
Yeah. So I grew up around it. You know.
Do you believe in generational curses?
Nah. I think
you don't think that there's things that from ancestors or things that become characteristical traits of a family?
Oh, I believe in that.
Like
I think
that.
DNA. Yeah.
I call them generational curses, but I think things get added into that along that journey, along the bloodline.
Well, I think we're just computers, and we just soak up information. And if you grow up in a dysfunctional environment, chances are,
you're going to be dysfunctional.
yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
we're
if-
all products of our environment.
if you're taught that, if you open your toolbox and all that is a hammer in there, everything becomes a nail. And I was raised up with, here's your hammer, go beat the hell out of the world.
How long did it take you to find clarity after you sobered up?
Well, man, I sobered up a bunch of times. I always relapse on my sober date. So this last time I didn't want a sober date. I just kind of like, I'm going to not drink today. One of those things. Okay, I'm not going to
So
drink
you
today.
stopped counting the days.
I just stopped counting. But man, I would say I felt clarity, but a lot of confusion, because when you're drinking, it's just putting a lid on all that stuff that you're not wanting to deal with. I self-medicated so I wouldn't be insecure. I self-medicated so I'd be larger than life. So I would be funny and I wouldn't have to deal with all my crap. I had the emotional intelligence of a kindergartner, and I just didn't know how to handle things. And so when I finally put that stuff down, and like I said, my wife drinks. I got no problem with alcohol. I just can't do it.
Yeah.
But it took a good 2 years for me to just process all the feelings that I wasn't feeling all those years, and a lot of feelings I didn't want to deal with. They had to come up. They had to come up, and my dad passed in 2007. My dad was my best friend. I bought him the house across the street from mine, and long story short, he wasn't supposed to pass, but I came home for the BMIs and he had passed, and I found him, and it wasn't a good situation, and that screwed with me hard.
I bet.
Bad. And so I did a lot of this and kept my mouth shut. I never talked about it. And, later on, now I can talk about it. And it's just, hopefully it gives somebody, they don't feel so alone. My buddy always says, some days you're the example and then some days you're the example. And, I spent a majority of my life being the wrong example, and now hopefully I'm a good example, and there's somebody out there that might be hurting, might be doing what I did, and if I can get through it, and if I can do it, I'm going to share it. You're supposed to keep it quiet and your anonymity, and I do the total opposite. I get up on a soapbox and talk about it, because I know there's somebody out there like me out there somewhere, so if it hits them and lets them know that they can do it too. So
Yeah, and there's a lot of challenges that come with this business, and I don't think people look at mental health enough, because I've going through the things that I did. I think when I went through traumatic situations, whether they were self-inflicted or not, I never sought out the mental health, because we grew up in a generation where you just shove that shit down.
Yeah,
You
shower it off,
stiff
keep
upper
walking.
lip, keep on going
yeah,
on.
shower it off, walk
through
forward, drink through it,
Drink
be a
through
man.
it. Yeah, that's what we all.
But
did.
you know what? In a weird way, I think it's what makes us creative.
I think that has a lot to do with it, because you learn to channel that energy into something that gives you relief and gives you peace, and that creative thing's got to be fed.
Yeah.
But we're also exposed to it's a two-edged sword, having that creativity in you. Sometimes it cuts really hard, and sometimes it's painful. It's not always a blessing, man.
No,
It's
no.
not.
It's probably more of a curse than it is a blessing. We just happen to
You
pay
have to learn how to navigate it.
and we get to pay our rent with our trauma. Thank you. So no. I mean, you put some kid in his room 6 hours a day practicing guitar instead of being out there with all his friends. He's gonna grow up screwed up.
Yeah.
His social skills are gonna be crazy. He's gonna be maybe a little insecure, especially if and God forbid he's got some drinking going on in the house, and you learn from that, and that's how you handle it.
Yeah.
So I'm not gonna turn this interview into an AA meeting, for God's sakes. Man, I'm just happy I made it through. I lost a lot of good friends along the way. I lost my guitar player. We played together for 26 years, and I had to fly down to Austin and carry him to his final resting place because of this shit. So, man, it was brutal, dude. But there's people that can do it, and hats off to them. I was just that guy that always got kicked out of the party early.
Well, there's still a lot of good stuff left in your tank, brother.
Man.
I feel that. There's a lot of stuff in front of you. I can tell that you're on a good path these days.
Man, you know me for a long time, man.
Yeah.
I love making music. I'm not happy with the biz of the music, but as far as creating and playing and singing, there's nothing I'd rather be doing, man. And it's provided a living and I've been really blessed at it. And man, when they said you could do another album, it put wind in my sails, because I thought we don't get to retire in this business. This business retires us, and sometimes we don't even know we're retired. I remember talking to my wife, and she's like, "Do you ever plan on retiring?" I said, "I might be retired now. I don't know."
Not sure.
We don't know until next year and the dates come in. And so it was just great to be able to write for me and tell my story, because I do have a lot to say, just like all of us do. We've all lived this crazy ride, and I just wanted to put it down to music. And man, I really made an album I'm proud of, man. And that's all. At the end of the day, if I don't get to make another one, that's a good one to hang my hat on.
That's awesome. I can't wait to hear it, man. It sounds like it's very intriguing. A lot of interesting collaborations and things on there. So I'm curious to listen through the content of the lyric and kind of get into your head and follow that journey.
Yeah, man.
Because I'm sure that you put this record together like us old school guys, where it just has a purpose, and the things are there in sequence for a certain reason, and they flow the way they do. You put an album together.
Yeah,
I'm sure you did.
It was supposed to be a journey, a ride. There's some lighthearted stuff on there, and then there's party stuff. There's a song on there you're going to relate to, because we've hung out a lot, called "One to Hank," and it's on a scale of how hammered I got from 1 to Hank Jr. And we've lived that one together. So, and then there's "Missing How It Used to Be," which I wrote with Dave Turnbull about my mom.
Do you think the industry's changed that much, or have we just changed that much?
I think the industry's changed that much.
Yeah,
I think the industry has changed that
much. What do you
much.
like and what don't you like about where it's at now?
I like. That's a hard question. I don't like the fact that followers dictate of how talented you are. I think there are really, like I said, there's somewhere out there in Louisiana or Arkansas, so there's somebody out there in the backwoods singing his butt off and playing his butt off that probably won't ever have a shot because he doesn't have any followers. That's sad to me, because I want to go see the best. I want to go hear the best. I want to work with the best. On the other hand, I like the fact that there's a lot of music out there. There's a lot. It's the Wild West out there. You don't.
And you're not tied to radio anymore. That's one of the things that I do like, is that you can actually have a career without having to go kiss radio's ass.
Yeah. And I love when somebody comes up and says, "Do you know this person?" I'm like, "No, I haven't." And they found them on the internet and they play me something, and it's really freaking good. And I'm like, you feel like you found a little gem there. So I do like that part of it. But I there's good and bad in all of this stuff. And I do see a recurrence, a lot of younger guys coming around really writing some great songs. Like they have, because we grew up, I mean, those songs that made me move to town and you moved to town, they were 3-minute movies, man. They were just well written. And somehow we went through a period of, there was no meat on the bone. There was no real life. There was nothing real about the song. It was just kind of the same thing over and over. And I'm hearing songs now that the art of songwriting's coming back, and I go, wow, that kid turned a phrase.
I was talking about this similar thing with Jamie Johnson the other day, and we were talking about in color, because I do it from time to time on my show, and I told him, I said, one of the things I love about that is you can close your eyes and you can see and taste it and smell it and touch it. It's so visual with the way you put the words together in the song, the melody, everything. I want us to get back to those things.
Yes.
Those type of songs that you can just, the senses are there.
Well,
and that's the true craft of writing a really well put together song.
Nobody's ever called their parents and made amends from a drum loop or the sound of a kick drum.
That's interesting.
Nobody has they've never been moved by a snare drum sound to where they'll call an ex-girlfriend up and apologize. But a lyric, that's what moves people. And I'm hearing lyrics come back, and those are the ones that make you, you should have seen it in colors, or I'm just a ghost in this house, or, any of those.
Or Pine Box.
Oh my God.
Some of those classics, I still go back to those things because they're so well written. Some of that Vern Gosdin stuff.
Chiseled in stone,
man.
Good God.
Those are iconic to me. And sometimes I don't think they get the due that they deserve.
No.
From the radio and from the public, because they're works of art.
And I'm blessed enough this year. I get to play bass behind Ronnie, and every night when he sings "I Believe,"
Oh my gosh.
holy,
Just puts hair on
hell.
your arms. It's powerful.
I've never gotten that from a drum loop. I've never gotten that from listen to that kick drum sound. I don't care about that stuff. I want to hear a lyric and a melody that knocks me out. And Ronnie just crushes it.
Oh yeah, and
You
he's
know?
had several of them like that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just he's got that freaking
Man,
gift.
Time Marches On is one of those songs. Time Marches On. I remember the first time I heard that. It's crazy. You remember that? I remember the first time I heard songs, and I heard Time Marches On, and I was like, "Good God, what a work of art!"
It's a masterpiece because Bobby wrote it by himself, and he put multiple generations of a family in a 3.5 minute song.
Isn't that
just how visual what he was able to put down on that page is unbelievable.
And it goes through a whole lifespan
Yes,
in
it's
3
crazy.
minutes.
Yeah.
That's a brilliant of songwriting, man. Those are just
And they're very rare. It doesn't happen every day. You could write 1,000 songs through the course of your lifetime. You might get 1 or 2 of them.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you're lucky.
yeah.
Yeah.
And when the right song meets the right artist, and they deliver it like that, then it becomes bigger than the song itself.
You've
know?
had some outside cuts, hadn't you?
Oh yeah.
What's the biggest outside cut you've had?
Well, One in Every Crowd from Montgomery Gentry was my biggest because I own the publishing too, so that bought my house
Yeah.
and everything. But I've had 50 outside cuts, maybe more.
Yeah.
Anywhere from Chris Young, Gary Allen. Feeling like that for Gary Allen was top 10. One in Every Crowd. I had 7 cuts by Montgomery Gentry, Rascal Flatts. I mean, but as far as the biggest copyright was One in Every Crowd.
You know, one of the things that makes me sad about the state we're at now, and I've talked about this in a few sit-downs with folks recently. You know, back in the 90s, we were, to get to the top of the charts, you were about 12 to 14 weeks. So you were getting about 4 singles a year, you know. And as a songwriter and as a publisher, if you could get 5, 6, 7 B-sides and maybe get 1 single a year, you were hitting a lick, man. You make $250,000, $300,000 a year just getting a top 10 single and several B-sides. Nowadays, if you're not writing with the artist, it's got to be really, really hard to get a cut these days. The playlist is smaller. Artists are getting 1 single a year. I mean, songs are staying on the charts for
50-some weeks.
And so you're not able to build a body of work. But as a songwriter, if an artist cuts 12 songs on a record and they're only releasing 1 single a year, chances of you getting a single are slim to none.
Yeah.
And B-sides don't pay the bills off streaming anymore.
No.
That's one of the big downsides that I see.
Big time.
Yeah.
I mean, the songwriter, well, and the artists are guilty of what they usually labels yelled at us for. You can't write the whole album. You can't write the whole album. Cut some outside songs, and I'm a big fan of outside songs.
Oh, yeah.
Man, there's so many great songs. But now the labels want the artists to cut their songs because it's a 360 deal, and they own part of their publishing.
Absolutely.
So now it's like, are they playing a game of race you to the bottom or what? I don't know. You know, I still hear great songs out there, but boy, you know, there was a time where we heard a lot the great songs to songs. The
What's the
ratio was
last great song that you heard? I don't really listen to the radio as much as I should. I have to make myself sometimes because I'm usually listening to some podcast or something. What's the last great song that you heard?
I don't really listen to the radio much anymore because every time I turn it on, it's man, I'm gonna get in trouble for saying this, but it doesn't sound like country music that in my head. You know, sometimes I think I'm listening to a one of those positive Christian channels with the big drums and I go, it sounds, a lot of stuff doesn't sound country to me, but Chet Atkins says if it was cut in Nashville, it's country, but I don't know.
I don't know about all that.
I don't either.
I tell you, there's been one song, and this is probably gonna amaze you. I'd gone to the grocery store. You remember the band Train? Rock band Train? I was at Kroger, and Drops from Jupiter came on the speakers in Kroger. And I'd never heard it. And it literally stopped me in the freaking produce section. I stood there and listened to the entire song. I've never had a song do that to me before since. And I don't know why. But it just the melody and the lyric. And there was something about that song that really just captivated me.
It's a great tune. And he delivers it killer.
Oh, it's so good.
I tell you, the last song, and I heard it at a movie theater. The last song that knocked me out was Don't Let the Old Man In by Toby Keith.
Yeah.
At the end of that movie.
Yeah.
I remember I went to see the movie, and we were getting up, the credits started rolling, and the song started playing, and I told my wife, I said, sit back down. And we sat through the whole thing, and I didn't even know it was Toby.
Yeah. Somebody told me the story behind that, and Clint Eastwood had said that line to him when they had met somewhere along the way, and Toby might have been complaining about an album or something. He said, "Don't let the old man in, son."
Yeah.
And that's where that idea
And
came
it's so
from.
honest, and it's not a big production. It's mainly a vocal and an acoustic.
Yeah.
And a little bit of support underneath it, almost like you should have seen it in color. Those big songs don't need all that bells and whistles. And I think, I think they're concentrating too much on bells and whistles than a great lyric.
It's kind of the same thing to me. I think a great band and a great artist should be able to go on stage with no lights and no production and no bells and whistles. If you're really good at what you do, you don't need all of it. If you can pull your show off without all of it, when you get all those things, you should be that much freaking better.
Yeah. My dad, my dad was my sounding board on all my demos. And I'd go past my driveway and turn in his, and I'd play him a demo. And he was brutally honest. And he'd go, "Son, a hit song don't need all that production. Elvis did it with one microphone and a guitar and a backup band. That's all you need, all one cut." And I would get mad, but now the older I get and the more songs I write, he was so right. It just concentrate on a great lyric and a great melody, and it doesn't need all that stuff.
Yeah, who was the producer you mentioned a while ago? Rick
Rubin.
I've watched some documentaries on him talking about how they would go in and track with a big section. He's real earthy and very organic by the way he approaches things. I've never been an artist when I wanted to produce things. I was always adding things. But sometimes the best philosophy is to take things away.
Yeah.
And let it breathe a little bit more. And I think that has come to me as I've gotten older and a little bit more musical wisdom and knowledge of being able to let things have their place and their time.
Yeah.
Do you feel like you've gotten to that place?
Yeah. And I learned that I was in the studio when Jamie Johnson cut that You Should Have Seen in Color album.
Yeah.
And over at Big Studios, and TW was the engineer, and they had a bunch of stuff on there. And then I watched TW go by and just start muting stuff. And I go, "What are you doing?" And he goes, "I'm just seeing what I can live without. What doesn't make the song?" And he would mute all this stuff that was down there and get down to there's the song.
Yeah.
And then they would print it that way. But not everything was played made the album. And I watched him do that, and I thought it was brilliant.
It's so hard to do that in this environment because, one, when you go into the studio and you're prepared, you have the best players in town at that particular time.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to justify taking some of that real good shit away.
I know, right?
It's hard.
Yeah. But I watched him and I was like, "How do you know?" And he goes, I just keep muting stuff. And if the song feels emptier, then I put that back in there. If it doesn't need it, it goes bye-bye. And I just watched him mute about 8 tracks, and I sat there and listened to it. And I was like, that's brilliant. That is brilliant. And it opened up the holes for Jamie's vocal to just be bigger than life sitting in that hole.
Yeah.
And that taught me a lot in that one day. But it is hard to do it when you hear stuff. Yeah. It's like, I want to mute everything but that one lick. Just keep that lick. I don't want to totally mute them out there, So I'm learning. I don't think we ever stop learning in this business, which is great.
And I'm fascinated. I watch a lot of production stuff, the way people produce different things, and learning how to add internal rhythm. One of the things that was so fascinating to me, when you go back and you listen to vinyl records, before we got to digital, when you play an album that was recorded analog, there's a dynamic to it, and there's a flow, and there's a pulse. Before click tracks, when drummers moved and they played softer and they played more intense and the band had things like that to it. What we've gotten to now in the digital world is where you create dynamics by adding things and taking things away because everything is shoved up to the freaking ceiling.
Oh, yeah. Everything's limited to death, and everything's so loud to where there's no depth anymore.
No, because everybody's listening right here.
And you get ear fatigue.
Yeah.
We did this album. That was one of my big pet peeves. Is I wanted to make a record. I said, I've already made 2 records that were just compressed and limited to death and all in your face. And I said, I can't even listen to them. And I said, I want to find an engineer that mixes old school, outside the box, and I want it to sound like a record. Like there's got to be depth, and there's got to be. I miss the days of leaning into a speaker to hear something. I was like, what's going on back there? What is that? And so we tried out all these engineers, and all the hot engineers would send a mix. I'm like, nope. And I'm sure Noah Gordon the producer got ticked off at me. But I was mixing Aaron Lewis's record with a guy named Neil Capolino who mixes Alison Krauss's stuff.
Yeah.
And I looked at him one day. I said, "Do you ever mix a full band? Have you ever done it?" And he's like, "Yeah, I mix a lot of Americana stuff, but it's been a while." And I was like, "If I give you tracks, can you give me a mix back? Just for my own thing." He's like, "Yeah, man." So I sent him a song called "I Got Roads," and when he sent me the mix back, it was like I saw Jesus. It was like
It's amazing what happens.
The vocals are just right. I mean, there's no when you compress everything, everything's to the ceiling, and the vocals there, and man, the vocal just sat on top like a cherry, and the drums were sunken back. It was like it was 3-dimensional. I felt like I was in the studio, and I was like, "This is." So I sent it to Noah, and Noah goes, "That's the guy," and I was like, "Yes, that's the guy."
Do you remember the band Aldo Nova?
No.
They were a rock band in the 80s. And the reason that I remember it, it was before surround sound came out. And I remember the first time they had a song called Fantasy. Do y'all remember this? A band called Aldo Nova.
I remember that.
Fantasy.
That's
You'd
just
sit in
a
the car and the
fantasy.
helicopter would come around you in the car.
Uh-huh.
It was the first time I'd ever experienced anything like that. I mean, the engineering on that record was absolutely phenomenal. I didn't know if you'd remembered some of that.
I remember that song now that you said that. But I remember, man, we all had the parents with the big turntable, the big thing.
Did you ever lay the speakers down on the
Yes,
floor and put it right by your head?
That's what I was just telling you. I would lay between the speakers,
Shit, yeah.
and I would listen to the album, and then I would pan it to the left, and then I just listen to the left side, see what was going on over there, and I pan it to the right and listen to the album just on the right side. And that's, I mean, I dissected all those old records like that. I was like,
Absolutely.
this is amazing. I wanted to hear the guitar player on this side, so I just...
And I still do the same thing. It's like I'll go work out, and it's like I'm going to put AC/DC on, and I'm going to listen to that rhythm track and how Angus's lead track layers in, and how they have the drum panned. And I personally, I don't like if there's a primary lead guitar on a record. I don't like to hear it all on one side.
Yeah.
I like to hear a balance. I like that layering effect that goes on with the way things are done.
Yeah. Where everything just supports that vocal and
all props that vocal up right at the top, but there's not anything overlapping that's canceling sounds out. I know that's weird.
It's an art, man.
Yeah.
That's those mixing engineers like Newbank and those guys.
Oh yeah.
I mean, that's an art. When you listen to them, because I'm not a mixing engineer.
Me neither.
I'm an editing engineer. I can track and engineer, but listen to somebody who really just. That's their whole world is mixing, and you sit there and go in a room and go, "Yep."
So that's where I stole him from. I stole him from Sound Emporium. Who was the best engineer you ever worked with at Sound Emporium?
My mentor. Well, no, not at Sound Emporium. Oh, that would be. Probably,
Anybody. Who's the best engineer you ever worked with?
My mentor, Derek Basin over there at Starstruck, is my main guy, and then.
What made him
so? Well, he did the Carrie Underwood and the Luke Bryans and all that stuff, and I got to watch him actually track the records. And then I was an intern, so he would allow me to sit in the room while he's in there mixing, so I could see the plugins he's using. I could see what outboard gear he's using. Then I would go through and then document for him, like when I was
just
the
map
intern,
everything out.
so I would help his assistant document all this stuff. So I got to learn like. All right, here on this kick drum, okay, he's taking 200 out here, adding 10K on this. Now you can't use that as your blueprint, your template, but it's a great way to kind of look at the philosophy behind it all. And then you get to he would allow me to ask questions, but if you see him if they're grinding, you don't want to be asking questions while he's working. But then if you go outside to smoke a cigarette with him or something, then you can rack his brain. So it was just so cool, man. But the other one, like it sounded for him, that'd be Reed shipping. Man, incredible. He'd bring in like 60 pieces of outboard. He would bring a studio to the studio.
Do you think the sound quality's gone down because everything is in the box? Most people are using plugins, or a lot of people are going back to real tube amps and compressors and limiters and all that stuff now too.
Dave Cobb told me that he mixed first or second, maybe both of them, the Meta Modern Sounds and Country Music. He mixed that completely in the box, and I thought it sounded analog as hell.
What's the new preamp that we just brought out on the road?
Oh, it's one of those Rupert Neves. But
yeah,
it's not like a Neve, but it's
I've been struggling. I've had some hearing loss, so I have trouble with things cutting through. And you move off the mic a little bit, and the tone changes. And I really want to keep a bigger presence without picking up all the ambient noise. That tube compressor, it's like that's what I'm looking for. It changed it instantly, dude. It's amazing how quick it can bring it into focus.
Heck yeah, man. I'm a fan of old school gear, but I mean, there's a lot of plugins that are incredible. But man, I'm just an old. gearhead,
The
man.
plugins dude would use, and it'd be like, here's an EQ or maybe like an RL exciter or something like
Yeah.
that. But most of it
always liked
was
those.
happening from the SSL
Yeah.
and then the
And the
like
pull
big
techs.
RL excited, yeah.
Yeah, old
Oh,
pull
the
techs.
yeah, and
Heck
the
yeah.
Manleys and all that kind of stuff. And
Yeah.
I mean,
That's
Manley's
what-
newer, but and the
You know,
Fairchilds and shit.
it's like there's new technology now, and Yamaha was developing in the '90s when I had my Yamaha deal, and they were developing keyboards with a wind straw, so you could do layered, like put the breath in on a bow. So there's things now where, and I haven't used it yet. I've always been fortunate enough, if I wanted to do strings, I'd bring like a 4-piece in,
Yeah.
and layer them and construct them. But you can do things on a keyboard now that you couldn't do 10 years ago.
No. And I tell you, the one thing, with modern technology is, man, cut and paste makes your life a heck of a lot
my God,
easier.
better than splicing tape.
Yeah, better than that dude with the razor blade coming in there and
Fingerprints all over
finding
everything.
it.
What's some of the cool technology keyboard wise you found?
Well, I don't know if it's particularly new, but just the sampling capabilities.
I
that
sent you
can
something
do.
weird the other day. What? Remember the piece
What
of gear? There was
that?
some piece of
Yeah,
gear.
some kind of a new instrument that looked kind of like a cross between a
yeah.
dulcimer and a keyboard or
It was
something.
really
with
weird.
synthesizer,
Yeah.
had buttons on it.
I'm scrolling through crap all the time. There's so
Yeah.
much weird stuff you can find.
You're like me sitting up at 2
bored.
a.m. What the heck's that?
Eyes hanging down about right here.
Yeah.
I get pain in this thumb.
Scroll. But I still, man, I don't care what samples they come out with. I still want to hear the drums in the room. Do not replace the toms or the snare, and for God's sakes, don't line it up to that grid. I think Pro Tools is a great tool, but as soon as they made lines in that thing, it screwed up. They just locked it in so much now.
And when they go into post, man, they're going to take everything to the line. They're going to hard tune the vocals.
Yeah.
And it takes the little blue notes out and the little gray areas that add the personality. And the problem that I found with it, when you hard tune vocals and stuff like that, the artists, if they don't sing that way, they can't go out and reproduce that.
Well,
that's not the way they sing.
No. I mean, remember when Gretchen Wilson did that duet with Haggard, and they tuned Haggard, and it didn't sound like Haggard no more?
Oh, no. Yeah.
I mean, it kind of sounded like somebody singing like Haggard, but it took all the. I mean, when they hard tune that stuff, it takes a lot of emotion. I imagine if they
man.
remember Katie Oslin, 80s Lady album.
Oh, yeah.
If they would have tuned her, it wouldn't be the same album.
Not at all.
Because she would just slide into those notes last minute, and they were just beautiful. You could feel the hurt in it.
You don't hear Katie Oslin on the radio at all anymore. And she had such a great body of work back
Yeah,
then.
heck yeah.
Just her own thing. She did her own deal.
But man, that was a great album. God,
What's your favorite album that you remember? What's one of the things that stand out to you from as you were growing up?
growing up? Willie Nelson's Stardust,
Oh yeah,
best album on the planet. I think.
Wow.
I think that album I wore out. I think that album is just brilliant.
yeah.
And then man, my dad, before my dad and me had anything in common, I was like 4 years old, riding around in his Cadillac. He had a banana yellow Cadillac with an 8-track player in it, and all he would listen to is Merle Haggard, Mac Davis, and Chet Atkins, and that's all we listened to. Jerry Reed every now and then, but mainly Haggard. And he used to take me to beer parties because I was like 4 years old and knew all the words to Tonight the Bottle Let Me Down and Rainbow Stew and all that stuff.
Yeah.
And so, man, any of those old Haggard records, I don't care what it is. Just pick one out, and if I was on an island, I would take that.
That's still my go-to warm-up. I've got a whole folder on my phone with nothing but my favorite Haggard songs.
Oh, my God.
When I need to warm
Even
up.
even the B-sides like Carolyn and all
that
my
stuff.
yeah.
Carolyn.
Let me tell you what I heard about a man today.
I love it, man. And I love all that Mac Davis stuff. I got to meet Mac Davis, man. He was doing a radio show out in California on KZLA years ago. And I got to sit and visit with him. I did his show. And do you remember the Mac Davis Good Time? My favorite thing was when Mac would go out there and sit down on the front of the stage, and he'd just get the audience to give him ideas, and he would write a song on the spot. And he hated it. He said, everybody always wants to talk about that. He said, wasn't that to that? That's pretty easy. I had a whole rhyme catalog built up. I mean, he had a whole way that he mapped it out so he could just go through the process. He was really good at it.
I heard some stories about him with Elvis back in the day.
No kidding.
That are just priceless. That apparently Elvis invited him to the movie theater one day, and Elvis had the whole movie theater rented out just for Elvis. And so Mac shows up, and he said he had to walk through a security guard and then another security guard, and they're like, "Who are you?" And I'm Mac Davis. Elvis called me, and he finally got down to Elvis, and Elvis is like, "Man, I'm glad you make it. Any problem?" He goes, "Man, I thought you were a country boy." And Elvis got ticked off. "What do you mean I'm a country boy? What are you talking about? I'm a country boy." He said, "Man, I never passed so many security guards in my life." And he goes, "What? Everybody, get the hell out!" And he got all mad, and he said he kicked everybody out. And he goes, "I'm sorry about that, Mac. Anything I can do to make it up to you?" And so Mac said, "I didn't know what to do." So I said, "Yeah, give me your phone number." And he goes, "What?" He goes, "I'll never call it, but I can at least say I got Elvis's phone number. Give me your phone number." He goes, "Hold on, Red, what's my phone number?" And he gave him his phone number.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I've gotten to know T.G. Shepherd pretty well over the years, and I'm sure you have too. I love T.G., man. All those old stories, man. Him running away when he was a kid and winding up down there meeting Elvis in Memphis at the skating rink and all that stuff, man. That's pretty wild, man.
Man, those days, you know, you knew this. When I first came to town, I became friends with John Carter.
Yeah.
And I was getting ready to go back and be a maintenance man in North Carolina, where I'm from, in Manteo, North Carolina, and I was broke as a joke. And John Carter invited me over to the house for lunch. I never left. I didn't know he lived with his parents, so I went from paying $200 a month for a couch to staying in the round bedroom at Johnny and June's house. And so me and John, Big John, became friends, and he would tell me. And I remember he asked me, he's like, we had our third single out, and he's like, "So what do you travel in?" And I was like, "Oh, we got a bus, and we just got a second bus, you know, for me, Keith, and Heidi, and 2 buses." And he goes, "You know what I got for my third number one?" And I was like, "What?" And he said, "A new Lincoln with air conditioner and a trailer hitch, so we didn't have to tie the upright bass to the top of the." And so you think about that. Those guys were doing it for the love of country music. They weren't making the money that these cats are making today. Plus, they weren't traveling like we were. Johnny was driving himself, taking speed during the day and downers to go to sleep after the shows. But those are the guys that paid the way, man. They were just doing it for the love of the music. And I miss 50 years from now, there's not going to be those stories from our generation. It's like those cats that did it just for the love.
Well, think about this. We've grown up in an era where we had all these influences. We had all these inspirations to draw knowledge from, to study them, to study their phrase. And I would listen to Keith Whitley and lay in between those speakers and crank it up so I could hear every nuance. When he pulled off of a breath, when he added a vibrato in, I studied all that stuff to minute detail. What about the Hank Williams seniors? What about the guys that didn't have that radio to grow up and learn from? What about all those guys? Where did they get all that inspiration from? They didn't have anything to blueprint it out from.
They just their own guy. They were
Yeah.
just originals, man.
Yeah. And we will never see those days again.
No, heck no.
But I find that very fascinating just to think about, what were they listening to? What did they get inspiration from? Did it just all fall out of the sky? And you go back and you look at some of those documentaries with Mother Maybelle Carter and all that stuff. A lot of that stuff came from old folk songs from overseas that they brought with them when they came across to the New World. A lot of that stuff had been in families and in regional things. But that's only, they have barn dances and shit, man. And
it slowly evolved. Then Haggard's big influence was Lefty, and you kind of go backwards. There should be a record of, everybody's influence and that person's influence, and go all the way back to the root of the artist. You know what I'm saying?
That'd be pretty interesting.
That would
At
be
least
interesting.
It would be to me.
It would be to me too. Cats like us that stay up at 3 a.m. looking at TikTok videos. I
Looking at
listen
cat
to that.
videos, watching cats barf up hairballs and shit.
I get stuck on if somebody gets kicked in the nuts. That's what I watch.
My new thing that I'm loving right now is watching all these people that do stupid shit and get arrested by cops, and then they want to argue with the cop, and they want to throw little tantrums like they're a 12-year-old child in the grocery store checkout aisle.
Man.
And I sit there and it's like I'd slap them. It's just like I get pissed off for the cops.
I love it when it's a mayor that thinks they're just above
Oh,
everybody.
yeah. I'll see. That will drive away from the cops and pull into the driveway and think they're just going to go in their house.
I love that too. I'm not gonna lie. It's like you get a ticket too, just like me, buddy.
I find great enjoyment out of that.
Yeah.
I do. I enjoy
I do
it.
too.
Yeah.
But I watch those people. People are talking back to cops now. It's like every
It's not
time I
gonna end
tried
well.
to do that, I ended up with a split eye.
And they didn't have tasers back then. Nowadays they'll tase your ass.
Well, and they didn't have somebody with a phone in their face either. It's your word against them.
Yeah, it's all documented now.
Yeah.
Yeah, we definitely live in a different day and age. That's for sure.
So who these days is turning your crank musically? Is anybody you heard lately you just went, dang?
Man, I'll tell you, and there's several different ones because I've had a chance to meet a lot of these kids. There's a kid named Brian Martin, and you probably run across Brian. Brian, oilfield kid from Louisiana, real rough background. I've never sat across from anybody that had music oozing out of his veins like this kid. Everything he spoke in cadence, lyric, poetic verse. He's got some demons that he's dealing with, and I pray for him. But he reminds me of what I would have perceived Chris Christopherson being in his dark period, where he just had songs coming out of him. He didn't even know what he had. It was just coming out of him. Never met anybody like this kid. You're going to hear a lot about him if he doesn't self-destruct, and I pray for him that he does it because he's got a lot of natural talent. Gavin Adcock. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's a wild man.
Yeah.
So he's like tearing up shit and throwing beer cans and shit at him on stage. I mean, he'll bring a 12-pack of beer out there and just guzzle it on stage. He's taking his shirt off and all that stuff. There's some wild stuff going on out there. The shock factor is very real. A lot of people want shock factor. Talent wise, Zach Top. Hands down, one of the most talented young people.
I'm digging what he's doing.
Me too. And Carson's producing him.
Yeah.
I've known Carson and White McCubbin, a lot of those guys. I work with them some. There's some really good traditional country talent that's starting to work its way through again that I'm very, very happy to see.
I'm happy to see that too. I was happy to hear the Zach Top.
Yeah.
I heard that and I was like, oh,
yeah,
here we go.
The kid's good, man.
Yeah, I dig
really
it.
is.
I dig it big time.
Yeah, I'm curious to see what his next record's going to be. It was a great introductory album. Let's see where he takes it. But he seems to have a real solid background. He got a bluegrass background. He's from Washington State. You know, he grew up playing in family situations, so he's got the chops, and he's been doing it a long time. And he seems very, very level-headed. That's fascinating to me. Unlike us.
I haven't met him. I have not met him. But I'm a fan.
Who else? We've had a lot of people on here. Who else?
May Estes.
I like May a lot.
I like the way she sings a lot.
So she's a young talent, May Estes. She's from Hope, Arkansas, and which is the area that I grew up in. And she said she saw me when I was she was 12 years old at the Watermelon Festival when I was playing the Watermelon Festival in Hope.
Really?
But she has a lot of Leanne Womack quality to her. Real sultry voice. She's really good, slick vocal delivery. I'm trying to think who else.
Man, have y'all heard Stephen Wilson Jr.?
I haven't.
Oh, yeah.
There's a song called "I'm a Song," and the reason I do music, period, is because my dad used to work for Loretta Lynn, so it's just all this. It's just in my bone marrow, man. But there's a song called "I'm a Song," and it reminds me so much of him. It's I'm the words that'll hit you, but I'm the words that'll hit you. It'll get you where you're going, so you never go there alone. I'm the melody. Damn it! I knew I was gonna mess that up. I'm the.
Usually people do this to me at the grill in a bathroom.
Anyways,
I got a lyric to share with you.
Listen,
I screwed it up.
Listen to Stephen Wilson Jr. I'm a Song, and we'll leave it at that.
He's a badass.
He's awesome.
He's a badass.
Awesome.
Man, I got something to play you. It's not I'm out there with Brooks and Dunn. The guitar player Lou Toomey, his first gig ever was with Whitley. That was his first gig playing guitar.
No kidding, man.
And he sent me. We stayed up one night, talk about Whitley. And he sent me a board tape. They were playing like this gazebo in I don't know what town. And he said, I don't know what got into Whitley. He was hanging out with all these bluegrassers all day. And he said he put on a clinic at this thing, and they recorded it. And he goes, I've got it in my phone, and he sent it to me.
Wow.
And he does put on a clinic. I mean, he is on fire singing. I mean, he was just... It's amazing. I'll send it to you because you're a Whitley fan.
Absolutely.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
It's incredible. It's just pure country. Just get you some of that.
Let's see. Whitley died in '89, and I came to Nashville in '90. So he died, I think, the spring before I came to town. I wish I would have had a chance to meet him.
Yeah, I came to town about '90. First time we met was at the Nashville Palace.
Oh shit!
A long time ago.
Yeah.
I think it was talent night at Nashville Palace way back in the day.
Wow. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, that was before social media.
Yeah, thank God.
Yes.
That was my first. That was Country Music 101. I was worked there with Granny Johnson, and who all was there back then? It was Diane. Now It's Happening to Me.
Yes.
But yeah, there was a lot of talent night out there. Was a lot of fun.
That was a
So
that was a
that's-
great hang back in the day.
That's where Randy Travis started,
Steve-
right?
Yeah.
Randy Travis started washing
Travis
dishes.
was
He
washing
was the
dishes.
dishwasher. Yeah.
Yeah.
And Terry Buttram was his drummer. Terry was from Texarkana, and Terry put my first band together in the early 90s. And so I cut Sticks and Stones in May of 91. The first single came out in August. And after we got on the road, Terry got sick with lung cancer, and he died the week of Fanfare the next year in 92.
Jesus.
And so he put the whole first band together, and him and a lot of those guys that were in my band had played with Randy early on in his career back then.
Wow.
Yeah, man. Pretty crazy stuff.
Different town, man. I remember the bartender there at the Nashville Palace. She ended up going in and replacing Paulette Carlson for Highway 101.
The little redhead chick.
Yep.
What was her name?
She was the bartender.
Yeah, what was her name? God, I remember. They had some success. They had a couple of things that they charted that did okay.
Yeah.
But it was never like
was never the
with
same.
Paulette. No,
No.
it never was the same.
Nikki Nelson.
Yep,
Yeah.
Nikki. Yeah, she was the bartender there.
How
Yeah,
about that? Huh.
that's right. I
And
heard
Jeff
her
Carson
name
was
forever.
singing. Jeff Carson was singing at Opryland at the Pickin' Parlor.
I remember that.
I was the bartender.
Wow.
I was the bar back and the bartender there when he was playing there.
You didn't give me free drinks away, did you?
No, I drank them all. I'd go in early, get a buzz on before I start slinging them.
Those were the good old days.
Yes. Yes, I'd go in there. Man, I'd go in and sit in the cooler and pop open champagne and eat strawberries for about an hour before I go in to serve drinks.
Yeah, you can't do that stuff these
No,
days.
no. I'd sit in there with whipped cream and strawberries, and champagne,
Like a party.
have a little party for about 45 minutes to an hour and go, okay, I'm ready for work. No wonder they fired me.
Well, man, so when you get done with the Brooks and Dunn stuff, you should be ready to go out and do some.
Yeah,
dates
I'm going to
on
go
the road.
do my own thing and support this record. And I'm looking forward to it, man. Looking forward to it. It's about dang time,
Yeah.
you know. About time for another run.
I look forward to seeing it, man.
Man, we'll have to get together and hang like we used to. Not like we used to, but like hang like
Hang like grown adult people.
grown
do.
adult responsible people do. Maybe we'll do some shows together or something.
Where's all the places people can find your stuff?
You can find me on all social media platforms. Ira Dean Bass on Instagram, and then Facebook and TikTok. Just look for the little blue dot because there's a lot of scammers out there.
Yeah.
What's up with that? If you're gonna imitate somebody, impersonate, don't pick me. Pick somebody bigger than me. I get people going, "Oh, I sent you money." I was like, "I didn't ask for money."
Dude, I have people fake accounts pretending to be that hit on my children.
What?
I've seen a fake one of your daughter. I've seen.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
They've done our tour or his tour manager. I mean, yeah.
And then you report them, and they don't do nothing. They don't take them down.
Well, but it's like whack-a-mole. You know, they knock 25 down a week, and
Yeah.
25 more show up the next week or more, because most of them are not even in the United States or out of the country. Oh, it just flies.
Man,
all
I've been
over.
talking to one of your impersonators for like 10 years now, and we have a great conversation. I know it ain't you, but we're having a ball.
Well, let me know who he is.
I don't know who he is, but I just keep.
You sent me a message one time that you were thanking me for being a fan. And I was like, oh, fucking hey, man, you could have just called me.
I know I had a guy thank my wife for being a fan.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, that ain't flying.
And the sad thing is, they prey on a lot of people. I don't understand what a lot of them get out of it, but a lot of them are scamming people for money. I've had some fans have been with me a long time that somebody's pretending to be my tour manager.
Yeah.
and they've got them for $2,000 or $3,000 because they're selling them backstage passes and all this stuff. So,
Yeah.
like, you know,
I had a lady that I talked to, and she was in tears, and she thought she had lost her husband in Afghanistan. There's a special place in hell for this guy, whoever did this to her.
Yeah.
And they posed as me, started talking to her, told her that the fake me had throat cancer, and I was taking care of Keith's daughter. Keith abandoned his daughter, so I was raising Keith's daughter. I had throat cancer and no insurance. And this poor lady was giving this guy money every month for 2 years.
Yeah.
And then found out it wasn't me, and I talked to her. She's bawling, and I mean, what do you do? I don't know what to do. I'm like,
It's sad.
do you have the emails? Do you have, I can help try to get. I felt so sorry for this lady because she thought Number one, she thought she was helping me out, and I'm like, sweetheart, that ain't me. And I felt so bad. And I was like, there's a special place in hell for people like that.
It's been a few years ago. It's when my last tour manager was with us. I can't remember where we were. It was a casino. Maybe it was in Arizona or something. I had a woman show up. I was backstage doing my meet and greet. I'm 57 now, so I had to be like 50. It's been several years ago. This woman showed up. She had to be 75, suitcase in hand, at the merch table out front, saying that we'd been corresponding, and she was getting on the bus, and we were running away together. I was leaving my wife.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how's that working out?
Yeah. I sent my apologies out to her. I didn't want to add fuel to the fire, so we didn't let her backstage. Everybody went out and told her the situation. She was heartbroken, but it's like,
Man,
what are we going to do?
Yeah.
Because she really believed in her mind that it was me that she had been talking to.
I know.
mean, she was ready to run away from everything. She was ready to get on the bus and go. Like,
No, that ain't.
no.
Poor lady.
Yeah.
Poor lady.
It's really sad that people do that stuff to people.
I just want to find out who does that to these people. Just show up and just kick them right in the pecker. Just ring their doorbell and just drop them. Just have a nice day.
A little purging, maybe.
I'll find
Or just
Tracy
some poop
Lawrence
in a
says
bag,
hi.
Light a bag of poop on fire out there. Yeah.
All the shit poop.
You call it.
Brother, I sure have enjoyed it. It's always
Man,
good catching up with you.
I love you, dude, man. We've had some good times, man.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me out,
And
too.
we're still here. We're gonna have a lot more. It's just gonna be in a different way.
Oh, God. No, you're my designated liver. You can drink for me.
Well, I don't drink that much anymore. So
Well,
hopefully mine's gonna survive a little bit longer.
Oh, yeah.
After all I put it through.
They make vitamins for that. You'll be fine.
Yeah, it's
If mine's okay, anybody should be.
Well, that's kind of my theory. I figured George Jones lived to be 82, 83. That's kind of my target date. If George could make it that long, by God, I can too.
I know. George, how old was George?
83.
83?
I think so.
I bet you his liver didn't die till he was 94.
It's still,
That liver still was going till 94.
great memories, my friend. Always
yeah.
a pleasure.
Let's make
catching
some
up.
more.
Absolutely.
Let's make
Best
some
of luck
more.
with the record. Stay safe
Thanks,
out there.
brother.
Tell the Brooks and Dunn boys we said hello.
I will. Much love, brother.
Ira Dean, baby.